Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend and maybe you got outside and enjoyed the rain a little bit. It was kind of nice to see the rain this weekend. Anyway, today's story is all about the power of working as a team, and I thought that you would enjoy our story. So here we go. It is called Dragon Soup, and it's written by Michael Yu. Dragon Soup. Once upon a time, there lived a ferocious dragon who had become really quite fed up with being so ferocious. He had grown weary from his life of fighting fearless knights in shining armor and running away from angry mobs of villagers brandishing fiery torches. And so down he came from his tall mountain, and off he went on his travels to look for a kindler, simpler life, which he was sure existed somewhere. He clambered down the mountain, trekked for days through great expanses of jagged rocks, and endured blistering heat, all endlessly searching for just a little comfort and kindness, but nothing appeared. The poor dragon was now exhausted, and what is more, he was very, very hungry. Finally, he arrived at a dark forest. Surely there must be someone to talk to and something to eat here, the dragon thought to himself. His belly was really rumbling now, almost as loudly as his own great roar. Then, from out of the greenery, there emerged a brown bear. Now, ordinarily, the dragon would simply have gobbled up a bear like this up, especially as he was so hungry. The brown bear would have made a very delicious snack, but the dragon was trying to turn over a new leaf, and so instead he decided to ask the bear for some kindness and some food. "Oh, please, could you spare me something to eat?" said the dragon. "I've been walking for such a long time, and any morsel you could spare would be most gratefully received." "Oh, no," said the brown bear. "We have had a terrible time in the forest. There's been no rain for ages, and we all have very little food, I'm afraid. We really couldn't spare you one bite." Well, naturally, the dragon was very disappointed, but our dragon was a particularly clever dragon, and so he came up with a plan. He went further into the forest and came across the home of a family of badgers. "Excuse me," he said politely at their door. "I was hoping to make a fantastic stew for my supper, but I haven't got a pot to cook it in. If you could spare me one, I'd gladly give you a share of my stew." The badger family, like others in the forest, had very little in their larder, so the thought of some delicious stew was very enticing. "Of course you can have a cooking pot, Mr. Dragon, and in fact, here is some parsley and thyme to add to the stew also. It will give it a delicious flavor." The dragon accepted the pot gratefully, and off he went to fill the pot with water and start a fire. Word soon got around the forest that the dragon was making a huge pot of food, and that he had already offered to share some with the badger family, simply because they shared with the dragon their pot and some herbs. Before too long, the dragon was approached by a family of beavers. "Excuse me, Mr. Dragon," said Mr. Beaver. "We have heard that you are making some stew, and we would love to help. Is there anything we can add to the pot?" "Well, it's pretty much perfect as it is," answered the clever dragon. "But I suppose if you had some carrots or potatoes, That would make it even nicer. I'd gladly give you share if you did." And so off Mr. Beaver went, and back he came carrying a few carrots, a few potatoes, and even an onion. The next curious animal to come along was the wolf. "Excuse me, Mr. Dragon. I've heard from my neighbors that you are making a stew. Could I possibly help at all?" The wolf was a kindly, educated wolf, who had also opted for a kinder life, and had therefore not eaten up his fellow forest-dwelling neighbors. But he too was quite hungry, having been saving his rations for hard times, and would indeed welcome a hearty drop of stew. "Well, if I'm honest, the stew is almost perfect as it is. But I suppose a few fat fishes from the river would add an extra flavor to the mix. Of course, if you would bring some, I would gladly give you share." Off ran the wolf, and after some time he came scampering back with two big salmon in his jaws, a trout slung over his shoulders, and a bag of eels hanging from around his neck. Other animals started to come out of the forest, each of them inquiring after the dragon's pot of stew, and each of them in turn offering to help and contribute something. Before too long, the dragon found himself stirring the spoon over a truly delicious and hearty cauldron. As he stirred, and as the smell of the stew wafted through the forest, making everyone's mouths drool in delight, the dragon began to speak. "My dear, kindly new friends, I arrived in this forest with nothing, and you were willing to give me nothing, for I had nothing to offer you in return. However, only when I made you think that I had something greater to give did you offer me your kindness and generosity. You all were keeping your possessions to yourselves, wary of sharing them with others, when now you can see that by sharing just a little, everyone can benefit from what little you have." At first, the animals were a little angry at having been tricked into giving the dragon their precious supplies, but they soon realized that by each of them adding just a little bit, and by each of them helping out just a smidgen, they had in fact done something good for the whole forest. So from that day on, the dragon was welcomed as a member of the forest community. He lived a kinder, simpler life, and he was often consulted by his new friends and neighbors on important matters. And, of course, he was the best forest member around when it came to having to start a big fire, so that they could all get together and make the now famous dragon's soup. And that is the end of our story. So I hope you liked that one, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.